Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a new video. So this is a video I have been meaning to do since I get so many questions on it. Now I love doing modifications, I love doing reviews and all that kind of stuff, but sometimes these videos are necessary because I get so many questions. That is the reason why I make these videos. So if anybody does have any specific questions about the details of anything on the car, I could always just direct them to this video or these videos that I do make so they can get everything that they need to know. What we're actually going to be talking about are my wheels. Wheels on my M3 is a question that I get very, very often. You know, the specs of them, what are they, what tire sizes, everything that you need to know about my wheel setup. I want to go over in this video, kind of break everything down. So if anybody has any questions, they can refer here and get all the details that they may need if they want to run a setup like this. So these wheels are the Volk Racing TE37SLs. Now the SLs are actually discontinued. There's the OGs, the original TEs, and then after that are these, the SLs. Unfortunately, they are discontinued. They don't make these anymore. They make the Sagas and the M spec or the Ultra spec. I forget the name of them, but there's a couple other versions of these, a little bit different than the OGs and the SLs. OGs and the SLs are my favorite type of TEs. I just think they look better. The Sagas and the newer ones, I don't know, something about them. The spokes are a little bit different. They have a little bit more kind of bend to them. They look a little bit off to me, and the OGs and SLs are just my favorite version of the TEs. The color of these are the matte black. It's a very, very nice finish. I think it looks really great on the mineral gray metallic. I was originally looking for the gloss black, but unfortunately, this spec and this wheel, they didn't offer that anymore. I looked everywhere. I did find a few used sets, but I wanted to get brand new. But thankfully, I ended up finding these brand new. Got them delivered to me super, super quick. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait since they were kind of sitting on the shelf for a decent amount of time. Nobody purchased them, and I was able to come across them, which I'm very, very thankful for. But matte black looks really, really nice. I will say the matte and flat finishes on the Volk wheels, it does look really good when it's clean, but they're very, very hard to keep clean. They're kind of notorious for staining over time, just from certain, brake dust and everything, and dirt and grime. Fortunately, I haven't experienced that yet. Everything still looks really good. I will say though, the finish on the barrels on the inside of them are not the best. That's just how they are. They're a very, very rough finish. When you think of a wheel, the barrel is usually pretty smooth and glossy. The finish on the inside of the barrels and the SLs are not the best. They are kind of rough, and I'm fairly certain the reason why they have such a rough finish on the barrel is because they were so conscious of the weight savings. These wheels are insanely light. I'm gonna throw up the actual weights of these with the tires from my video when I was first mounting these so you guys can see, but these are all about saving as much weight as possible. On the back of these, they actually have cutouts and everything. You can actually see them back there to make them as light as possible. They got rid of as much material as they possibly could while still keeping the rigidity and the overall strongness of the wheel intact. So the fronts, I am running 18 by 9.5 plus 22. But I'm actually running a 5mm spacer on the fronts to bump it out just a little bit more, make it a little bit more aggressive. So it effectively brings it out to plus 17. Pretty aggressive, but it's still very, very doable. You do not have to run any crazy camber or anything. The tire that I am running is a Falcon RT660. This is a 265/35/18. And I'm only running about 1.5 degrees of camber. I'm pretty darn low. The suspension that I am running are KW V3s. I showed my heights and specs and everything in that video when I was installing them. So if you guys are curious of the actual heights, you guys can go back and check that out. But it is pretty darn low. It is not even a 1-finger gap. So that is what you can get with around negative 1.5 degrees of camber up front. So you don't have to run anything crazy. I'm on the stock top hats, so I don't have to run aftermarket camber plates, which is really, really nice. And it gives a really, really nice aggressive fitment. Fills out the fenders very, very well. And I'm super, super happy with the look. I don't have any rubbing anywhere. I did actually have some rubbing at first when I first installed these before I got an alignment on the inner tab in here from the bumper to the fender. But since I got an alignment, and I also got my tow arm replaced since that was seized, and ever since I got that sorted out, I don't rub anymore. Even under the hardest of driving, no rub. It's pretty amazing. Now the rears, this is kind of the bread and butter of the entire setup. These are 18 by 11 plus 34s. I'm not running any space around here, so this is exactly how it fits. No extra hardware, anything like that. The tires, the same tires up front, the Falcon RT660s, but these are 295/30/18s. Now I'm not running any control arms or anything. This is all stock arms. I'm running around negative 1.9 degrees of camber. So again, nothing crazy. Didn't roll any fenders or anything like that. So this is a pretty simple setup. I didn't have to get any aftermarket arms or do anything crazy. This is all within factory spec, which is really, really nice. And I get such a fat, meaty tire in the back, which is my preferred type of setup. I'm not a really big fan of stretch setups. I do appreciate them, but for my own personal cars, I like to get as much tire and as much aggressiveness as I possibly can on my wheel setups to fill out the large fenders. The term that I like to use is a street track setup, a super meaty, very, very practical type of fitment. I like to drive my cars. I've ran setups in the past with a little bit of stretch on the tire, and I never ended up really liking how it drove and felt. So I always prefer to go with a little bit meatier setup. And typically most people like that, you know, the look of it, and are pretty happy with the setup as well. Now, I know a lot of people go with 19s or 20s on these car. Mine is a competition, so it came with the OEM 666M wheels, which are 20s. Personally, I think they're a little too big for the car. The only time this car looks good with 20s, in my opinion, is if you have the CCBs, the carbon ceramic brakes, just because it fills out the size of the wheel better. If you have these standard brakes that I have on here, they are pretty large, but I just think 20s make the brakes look a little too small. And it's just, I don't know, something about it, they feel like they're a little too big for the car. So personally, I think this car looks best on 18s or 19s. Personally, I think 19s look very, very good on this car. If you have like an HRE or BBS or something like that, I think they look best with a kind of blingy, kind of shiny wheel, or I guess a fancier looking wheel, a little bit more eccentric, a little bit more blingy, I guess, if you want to call it. I think 19s look very, very good on the car with that, but otherwise, I think 18s look the best. Not only do I think it looks better, but you can fit more tire on the car, not to mention the tires are cheaper for 18 inches, so it does help overall. But one of the main reasons why I wanted to go down to 18s is because of the wheel to brake ratio. One of the main things that I don't think people really necessarily focus on is that I think the size of the brakes, when it fills out the wheel very, very well, kind of fills out the whole thing, I think it looks really good. I'm always focused on that. I did the same thing with my STI as well. I went down to 18s and I had a Rotor big brake kit on there, and it filled out the wheels perfectly, and I loved how it looked. So I'm only making sure the wheels that I end up choosing on any one of my cars, not only does it look on the outside, but the brakes fit and doesn't make them look too small. So going down to 18s, I think looks really good with the brakes. It fills it very, very well. And if you have the carbon ceramics, unfortunately, you can't go down to 18s. The smallest you can do is 19s, which I still think really good. I think the same, ratio, brake to wheel ratio is the same when you do 19s and you have the CCBs. I got the peasant life over here with the standard brakes. So stepping down to 18s, I think it looks really, really good with all the brake in there. Kind of fills everything out. Now you guys may be noticing, what sticker is that? These wheels, the TE37SLs in the flat black finish, actually come with these. These are the red spoke decals. It also has a red spoke decal underneath the valve stem there, but I ended up taking that off since I ended up deciding to run a different color sticker. Now these are genuine Volk Racing decals on the car or on the wheel. These are actually from the pressed graphite version, or the color, which was a limited run, I believe. It's kind of like a chrome finish, and I felt like it would just look so much better on the mineral gray metallic as opposed to the red. I don't have any red on the car, so I decided to go with those. I actually did a whole video on installing these. Super nerve-wracking, because these are about $120 or so just for decals. But I think they look really nice, and it kind of suits the wheel in the car so much better than the red. The red does look good. I still have these. I just kind of prefer the pressed black color decal on these wheels with the color of the car. Now, for the sake of the video, just to get all the questions answered in here, I'm going to go ahead and measure out exactly my ride height, because I know a lot of people are going to ask and they may not go back to the video and find it. So let's just do it in this video. So let me go ahead and get my tape measure, kind of measure things out. The way that I'm going to measure it is from the bottom of the lip of the wheel to the fender. Same thing in the rear. Some people do it from the ground, some people do it from the center cap. I like to do it from the bottom of the lip, since that will never change and that will always be stagnant, pretty much exactly the same as long as you're on a flat level surface. So let's go ahead and take some measurements. So from the bottom of the lip to the fender, I'm about 22 1/4 or so in the front. I forget what stock is. It's very, very high. So that's, I want to say almost like 2.5 inches, 2 inches or so from factory. Factory height in the front is insane. So dropping it that much it's a pretty decent drop. The rear, you don't have to drop as much since it actually sits pretty decent, but let's go ahead and measure. So we could get to the bottom of the lip right here. And we go up to the fender. We are looking at, let's see, about 21.5 or so. So that is what it is on both sides, exactly the same. I usually like to measure and kind of make everything even all around the car. Obviously, you can keep the driver's side up a little bit to counter for your body weight when you're in the car, but I drive this car in the street and I don't need a corner balance or anything like that. I'm not gonna notice it. I've gotten my car's corner balanced in the past and never noticed a difference for the type of driving that I do, so I never really did that. But so I know a lot of people ask me this as well. What is the height from the front lip down? It is about, let's see, 2 inches to about 2¼ inches. So it's pretty darn low, but I'm just used to driving lower cars. So I know a lot of people always ask me, how is my front lip still intact? And it still is. I have scraped before, but just on the bottom, not anywhere on the front, and it's still in very, very good condition. Still looks perfect. So it's just a matter of experience and everything, driving that low. I'm just used to it. I've been driving lower cars for a very, very long time. So I'm kind of just used to that style of driving. So let me show you some of the fitment in the back right here. Again, that is a 295/30, 18 by 11 plus 34 with around negative 1.9 degrees of camber. Fits beautifully. I love that fitment. The front here, we are 18 by 9.5 plus 22. Plus the 5mm spacer or minus the 5mm spacer. So we're looking at plus 17 with a 265/35 18 tire and around negative 1.5 degrees of camber. So same thing on this side as well. Again, it's the same thing on the passenger side, but I figured I would show you just so you guys can see it, but looks amazing. I love this fitment so much. It just really looks super aggressive. Again, it's that track street spec. You know, if I were to take this on the track, I most certainly could and have a lot of fun. And at the same time, I can drive around this every single day and not have any issues. So I know we're in the garage, but what I want to do is actually catch up with you guys tomorrow in the daylight to get you a little bit better angles and better shots so you guys can see the car outside and kind of really show off the fitment and the wheels a little bit better, because I can only show them so much in the garage. So I'll catch back up with you guys tomorrow in the daytime with some daylight shots so you guys can see it. And then we'll wrap the video up and we'll start discussing actually the possibility of some new wheels. No, I don't plan on selling those for now. Probably just going to add to the collection and see what we can do with a new set of wheels. But yeah, I'll catch back up with you guys tomorrow with a little bit better angles and some better light. All right, guys, so here are some exterior shots in the daylight so you get a little bit better view and understanding of the fitment. Every single time I take this car out, I can't get over the fitment. It's absolutely perfect. The great thing about this whole entire setup is that I can drive it as hard as I want. I don't rub anywhere, which is pretty crazy for how low it is, but it's absolutely perfect. I love the way that turned out. It's just such an aggressive spec without going over the top and having stretched tires and everything. I mean, I got 295s in the rears, 265s up front, and it just looks absolutely phenomenal. It just turned out amazing. And for the first wheel setup that I put on this car, I couldn't be happier with the fitment and just the feel of everything. These tires, the RT 660s, are the first time I actually ran this tire. I'm a really big Michelin fanboy, and this is kind of my first time running non-Michelins on an M car or any car for that matter. The only other tire that I ran other than Michelin's were Hankook V12s at one point on my E46 M3, which I liked, but I wasn't too happy with them. And ever since then, I kind of just went over to Michelin's, and I've always been a really big fan of them. And this was kind of my first try of non-Michelin tires. I really wanted that aggressive tread look, that really track focused look, not to mention the performance and everything. And I really, truly believe I kind of nailed it with this setup, and it really turned out beautiful. Now, I did mention I was going to talk about some future setups. I don't think I'm ever going to sell the TE37s just because I think it fits this car and kind of my personality very, very well. But I have been looking at a few other ones. I'm a really big fan of the BBS RIAs. Really, really like that setup. I would get them in the race silver or the silver color, and I think it would be a very, very classy look. I'd probably go with the 18 by 10 plus 22, I believe, or 25. I forget which one it is. It's an E90 spec, E90X spec, but you can get them to fit on here with a little bit more camber. and I just love the way that it looks. So I may go with those. And obviously I love the BBS E88s as well. But really cool design, and really cool thing is that if you guys are familiar with Apex wheels, they just released a new design called the ML10s. Really big fan of them. They're kind of getting us some idea of what specs and everything and what sizes they should run. So I'm really interested in those. Basically, it's a very similar style to the E88s, but it's not as expensive as the E88s. So I'm curious about those. I may pick up a set of those in the future if they have the specs and the colors and everything that I want. So we'll see about those. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap the video up here. Again, I just wanted to show you guys some exterior shots, kind of walk around the car, show you a little bit of the car outside with the fitment. The garage, I can only do so much with the angles and lighting and everything. So I figured this would give you a little bit better idea. So I know a lot of people always had questions on these wheels and the specs and everything. So making this video, this dedicated video, I hopefully can help some people out, get an idea of what they like. Maybe they're looking for this exact spec or want to replicate this in some type of way. They can refer to this video and kind of get all the information they need. But that's gonna do it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions at all, be sure to ask them below. In the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple. I'll catch you guys in the next one.